we've got some challenges. I mean, but it's going well if you just look at what's happening on the national scene right now in terms of candidates. You have an African American who now has the nomination for the United States Senate in Maryland, the current lieutenant governor. You have an African American who you know as a Hall of Fame football player that played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know him as a average long jumper in the USC track team when I was an intermediate hurdler on the USC track team, Lynn Swan, running for governor of Pennsylvania, an African American Secretary of State running for governor of Ohio, an African American running for the United States Senate in Michigan. So, I mean, right now, if you look at what's happening in terms of statewide elections, there are more African Americans running for statewide elections. I mean, the top two seats as Republicans than there are as Ds. But we've got some challenges. There's no doubt about it. If you had heard me give a speech to African American audiences as I do, I typically say, what we have to do in order to track, we don't have to change who we are. But we do have to remember some things. I mean, when we see wrongdoing, we got to say we see wrongdoing. When we see something stupid, we got to say we did see something stupid. And I'll share an experience with you. It had to have been maybe five election cycles ago. And you may remember when some knuckleheads were going across the South burning churches. And at the time, I was giving advice and counsel to Republican candidates who were running against Democrat incumbents for Congress. And somebody finally burned a church outside of Dallas. And I said, you might want to send out a press release to say that the burning of this church is a bad thing. You're running in an area where that congressional district is about 35% African American. And the candidate called me back and he said, well, Michael, I talked to my advisors and they said that I shouldn't do it. I said, no, think about it again, call me back. And he called me back and he said, my advisors told me, don't do it. And two things happened about that I think is instructive. The first one was my wife and I were going to hold a fundraiser for this candidate at our home with what I would call non-traditional African American Republican donors, black folks. And Donna said no man was going to come into her house and raise money who didn't have the sense to say the burning of a church was a bad thing. So that's the first thing that happened. Second thing that happened, he had all these proposals where he wanted to talk about, school vouchers and how you move mothers from welfare to work and entrepreneurship. He had all these great ideas, these great initiatives on paper. And he called me and he wanted to know why African American ministers wouldn't call him back. And I was reminded of something that Lee Atwater said years ago. He said, people don't care what you know till they first know that you care. One of the things that we have to do as a party when we see stupid stuff is to say it's stupid.